Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. The Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3 is a budget-friendly gaming laptop with a lot to offer for the money. So, without wait, let's check out how well the IdeaPad Gaming 3 performs in games and see how it compares with other laptops. It's got an all-black plastic build. The size is decent for a 15-inch gaming laptop. Not super thin or anything, but not huge and still portable. This smaller footprint allows for 6 thin screen bezels on the sides. It's got a 15.6 1080p 120Hz display, and it's got FreeSync with a 60 to 120Hz range, which is nice to see. I measured the screen's average gray to gray response time at around 15 ms. Ideally, we want to see 8.33 ms for a 120Hz panel like this. Luckily, this laptop faster than the 120Hz screen in the Asus G14. We're looking at 266 nits at 100% brightness, below the 300 or so I like to see, making it a little dim, and within around average 880:1 contrast ratio. Backlight bleed was fine even in this worst case test. Just some minor glow patches that I never noticed when viewing darker content, but this will vary between laptops. There's a 720p camera above the display in the middle with a physically sliding privacy shutter, no Windows Hello support. This is what the camera and microphone look and sound like. This is what it sounds like to type on the keyboard, and this is what it looks like if we close that privacy shutter. The keyboard just has a single zone of blue backlighting, which illuminates all keys and secondary key functions. It's got 2 levels of key brightness or can be turned off with a function in space. Keys. The keys were a bit more clicky with 1.5 m of key travel. Here's how it sounds to give you an idea of what to expect. I like that the arrow keys aren't small and instead are pushed down a little to make space. The power button is separate from the keyboard. It's just above it in the middle. The precision touchpad is a smooth plastic. It clicks down anywhere and worked fine. Fingerprints and dirt show up pretty easily on the matte black finish, but is it smooth? And it's easy to clean with a microfiber cloth. On the left from the back, there's the power input, Gigabit Ethernet, HDMI 2.0 output, USB 3.2 Gen on Type A port, USB 3.2 Gen on Type C port, no Thunderbolt, 3.5 ohm audio combo jack, and status LED on the right side. Just as a USB 3.2 Gen on Type A port and air exhaust vent, so no cables getting in the way if you're a right-handed mouse user. The HDMI port connects straight to the NVIDIA graphics. The Type-C port does not offer display output, and Type-C cannot be used to charge the machine. The weight distribution was good, allowing for 1 finger opening, and by default the laptop will power on when you open the lid, but you can disable this through the Vantage software. There's nothing on the back other than subtle IdeaPad text, as air is instead exhausted. Below the screen, there's nothing happening on the front. Underneath has some air intake vents towards the back above the fans. You need to take out 10 Phillips head screws to get inside, and the 4 down the front are shorter than the rest. Once inside, we've got the battery along the front, 2.5 drive bay above on the left, 2 M.2 storage slots, Wi-Fi 5 card in the center, and 2 memory slots to the right. Although the SSD installed is a smaller size, there's room for a longer drive, but the second slot only fits the smaller option. The 2 1.5W speakers are on the left and right sides towards the front. They sounded okay. I'd rate them about average, no bass, and a bit tinny. They're not super loud at maximum volume, but loud enough, and the late submitted results were alright. The IdeaPad is powered by a 3-cell 45Wh battery. I've tested it with keyboard lighting off, background apps disabled, and screen at 50% brightness. The results were quite good considering the size of the battery, lasting for more than 6 hours in the YouTube playback test. The Lenovo Vantage software lets you pick between 3 performance modes, which from lowest to highest are quiet, balanced in performance, but there's no user fan controls. None of these modes applied any overclocks to the GPU, and I didn't find the Ryzen controller software to make any performance improvements in the higher performance mode. The idle temperatures were good with the 21 degrees Celsius room, with the stress test running. Quiet mode is the warmest due to lower fans, then balanced is a fair bit cooler, completely acceptable. Performance is only a little warmer as it performs better, but still under 90 degrees on the processor, and the cooling pad helped lower temps a bit more. Interestingly, when gaming in quiet mode, the temps are way down. This was because the GPU seemed capped to 300 MHz, so the game was basically not playable. I'd write off playing in quiet mode entirely due to this. Otherwise, best case, we're looking at almost 4 GHz over all 6 cores sustained long term. For the CPU, we can see this in the power levels the components are running in. Quiet mode with the game running is way down. When idling, the keyboard was around the low 30°C point, which is pretty normal. With the stress test running in the lowest quiet mode, it's approaching the 50s on the left. WAS felt fairly warm. Balance mode was a little cooler, probably due to the fan speed increase. Then in the highest performance mode, it's pretty similar, warm but not hot. And we can see the hot air exhausting onto the screen on the right. Beside this, I could hear the fan and hard drive at idle. Quiet mode does what it says on the box. Then, balanced and performance were about the same and were quieter when compared to a lot of other gaming laptops I've tested in the highest performance mode. For the gaming performance, it's also beating the 5500M in the Alpha 15. Granted, that machine does also have the much worse 3750H processor. Otherwise, it's a bit of a jump up to the next tier, being the 1660 Ti-Max-Q. I've used Crystal Disk Mark to test the 256GB NVMe 2 SSD. The speeds were alright best, but nothing high-end. The 1TB hard drive seems to have decent speeds for a 5400 RPM spinning rush drive. For updated prices, check the links in the description, as prices will change over time. Now let's summarize the good and bad parts of the IdeaPad Gaming 3 to help you decide if it's a gaming laptop worth considering. Overall, I think there's a lot of value here for the money, but that said, in many games, the IdeaPad does have FreeSync though. The plastic build quality is a little better here, but still pretty average, and I did prefer the keyboard of the Lenovo. Thermals are good, but that's just a side effect of the specs not being high-powered. It doesn't run hot and performs good in any case. Battery life was good considering the smaller battery size, and that seems to be a side effect of Ryzen, as most Ryzen gaming laptops I've tested do well here. Speaking of Ryzen, the CPU performance on offer is next level here compared to what was available at this price point less than a year ago. It's good to see that Lenovo are giving us 2 memory slots for dual channel memory now, especially if you're on a tight budget. In that case, the Lenovo might be the way to go depending on your needs. Let me know what you thought about Lenovo's IdeaPad Gaming 3 gaming laptop down in the comments. Is it something you'd consider? And if you're new to the channel, get subscribed for future laptop reviews and tech videos. Thanks for watching video. Bye guys, till the next video.